The movie opens with a woman named Julie, who has just moved into her new home. We learn that it's an old house, where Julie and her husband, Daniel, hired workers to remodel the house they just bought.
Oh, floor's not safe.
That day, a worker who's dealing with the bathroom finds Julie, and hands her an old bracelet he found stuck in the drain as he assumed it belonged to her. Though it's not hers, Julie decides to keep the bracelet anyway. When the couple retreats to the bedroom, Julie finds her cat, Lou, wandering inside the house. We learn that Julie is in the late stages of pregnancy, and the couple seems as happy as ever, even though Daniel is a bit tired from managing the house renovation. Later that night, Julie fixes the old bracelet she got from the worker earlier in the day, and puts it on. She then checks the box she brought with her. Just then, Julie begins to hear a child whispering down the hall. When she goes to check it out, she finds her cat, Lou, hissing at a tarp-covered doorway. Julie is surprised by her husband, Daniel, who excitedly shows her what he's done to the nursery room. Apparently, he's installed a baby monitor in the corner, which could record video, and also be connected to a microphone. Afterwards, the two attend an academia banquet, as Daniel is a new professor at the local university. While mingling with the guests, Julie ends up conversing with an old lady about how she and Daniel just moved into a house near the lake. Hearing this, the lady says that she knew the previous owners, whose wife unfortunately became very sick. When the old lady asks if they're going to have their first child, Daniel suddenly cuts in and says yes, surprising Julie. When they get home later, the couple argue, because as it turns out, this baby isn't their first child. They had a son who passed away, and Julie is upset by the fact that Daniel had to lie about it. However, when the wife heads upstairs to leave,
"Talk to me, wait!"
she briefly sees a little boy standing afar, causing her to trip and fall. The wife gets rushed to the hospital, and she begins recalling her traumatic experience when she delivered their first child, who was stillborn. When Julie awakes in present time, the doctor in the room says that the baby is alright. However, it's experienced an abruption, which is when the placenta is separated from the uterus and may result in premature birth or death. Therefore, the doctor strongly suggests that Julie remains in bed rest until the baby's due, which is in 8 weeks. During this time, Julie is told to avoid any physical activity and should lie in bed all day, except the occasional trips to the bathroom, and above all else, she must avoid stress at all costs. Since they were in the middle of renovations, the doctor strongly recommended putting any major projects on hold, until after the baby comes. They get home a few days later, and Daniel tries to cheer Julie up by showing her a bunch of things he's set up in their bedroom. The husband has already prepared a tool for her to use to grab things, along with an iPad, her laptop, and a walkie-talkie that she could use to summon him. On the next day, she tries to do some work on her laptop, and spends the rest of her time watching TV, and trying to entertain herself with the cat. When she goes to the bathroom later that day, she hears a child laughing and a baby's cry, so she retreats to the bedroom. To her surprise, the closet door cracks open on its own. But when she goes to see what's behind it, she finds nothing. In the evening, Daniel, who just got home, scolds Julie when he sees a UPS box in the bedroom, as he knew Julie must have gone downstairs to retrieve the package. The couple argues again, with Julie saying that she feels debilitated from not being allowed to go anywhere. Fortunately, Daniel immediately apologizes for complaining, and the two make up since she shouldn't be stressed for the moment. Later that night, when the husband finally falls asleep, Julie lies awake, and hears the closet door creak again. When she looks at it, she sees a figure peeking from behind it, so she wakes Daniel, and tells him there's someone inside. Daniel immediately arms himself and opens the closet, but they find no one's there. We now skip to day 13, 43 days until due date. On that day, Julie is seen killing time by watching TV, while cleaning the bracelet she got earlier. At one point, she notices a little boy out in the yard playing by himself, so she says hi out of boredom. Julie asks where his mom is, but unexpectedly, the boy turns grim and points at her. To make it even creepier, she suddenly gets an alert from the baby monitor, detecting movement in the nursery, so Julie checks it out. But as it turns out, it's only Lou the cat. Despite this, Julie keeps watching, and upon closer inspection, sees the reflection of someone's face in the mirror. She quickly calls 911 for help, reporting that there's an intruder in her house, and the operator advises her to lock her bedroom door. As a police officer is dispatched to the scene, she rushes to the door to lock it, but we all know that's not going to stop the ghost. The next thing Julie sees is wet footsteps on the ceiling, which disappear as the sheriff's car arrives. When Daniel gets home, Julie just finished telling the officer what happened. The officer, however, expresses that he's unable to find any potential suspect, let alone an actual intruder and a child in the house. This leads Daniel to worry. After the officer leaves, he and Julie ends up arguing again, as he thinks that she's been hallucinating. Worried, the husband decides to bring someone in, a babysitter for Julie, even though his wife says no. That night, Julie, who couldn't sleep, pulls out the box she was about to open in the earlier scene. It turns out that the box was filled with stuff, including toys that she prepared for her previous baby, whom she named Andrew. The wife starts to recall about her son who died at birth, and she begins to cry by herself. Later that night, she falls asleep on her own, until she is woken up by the sound of something moving up the ceiling, and sees Andrew's toy car up there. The car toy suddenly falls onto the bed, and she checks Andrew's box, only to find that it has really been taken from inside the box. And all of a sudden, after the little boy runs out, Julie realizes that he might be the ghost of her stillborn baby Andrew. The baby monitor suddenly alerts her that there is movement in the nursery room, so Julie tries talking to the little boy. But shortly after, she gets interrupted by Daniel, who's been working in the other room this whole time. He says he heard the door slam, and the wife says she was just trying to FaceTime with her friend. We now skip to day 23, 33 days until due date. At this point, Daniel has decided to hire a nurse named Delmy to take care of Julie. After the health exam, the two women talk a little bit about motherhood, and we learn that after giving birth to her stillborn baby Andrew, Julie experienced postpartum psychosis, and was treated in a mental hospital for 6 weeks. During that time, she kept seeing apparitions of her dead son because she wasn't ready to let him go. To comfort her, Delmy also shares about her life. She's always wanted to become a mother, but she's infertile. And to console herself, she thinks of herself as honorary mother by helping deliver other people's babies. 27 days until due date. Delmy helps Julie in the bath, and when Delmy goes out for a while, Julie yet again sees the boy, followed by a jolt of pain in her gut. A medical staff is summoned, and the doctor deduces that she simply had a contraction. However, apparently Delmy and Daniel have informed the doctor about Julie's mental health history, and how she's been seeing the ghost of a boy around the house, and so the doctor prescribes her medication to take. When everyone goes outside, Julie immediately eavesdrops on her husband's conversation with the doctor. The doctor tells Daniel that if the medication doesn't work, he should consider admitting her to a mental health facility, which irritates Julie. At this point, Delmy starts giving Julie the medicine, which is the best thing she can do right now. Everything appears to be fine, and Julie appears to be enjoying her time under Delmy's care on a daily basis. 18 days until due date. One night, Julie notices the cat ball rolling from under the bed, and so she responds by throwing it under the bed again. But then, Lou the cat meows from across the room, meaning that it isn't Lou who slid the ball from under the bed after all. Mortified, Julie takes a mirror to see what's under the bed. While hearing rapid footsteps out of the room, Julie realizes that Lou the cat could see the boy too. Later that night, Julie stays awake and watches the baby monitor, while calling Andrew her son. Day 46, 10 days until due date. Julie, who is in the bathroom, tries calling Andrew again, and not long after, Andrew shows up in front of her eyes. This time, he warns that Julie should leave, because she wants the baby. However, when Julie asked him to specify who, Delmy enters the room and the ghost disappears. This leads Julie to conclude that Delmy must be up to no good, while Delmy says that they need to take care of their baby. Later, Daniel says that the babysitter was recommended straight from the hospital, but Julie suddenly asks her husband to fire her. Confused, the husband asks the reason why, so Julie tells him the truth, which is that the ghost of their stillborn son, Andrew, gave her the warning. Daniel obviously doesn't believe her, and stomps out of the room out of frustration. In hopes of stopping her delusions, he's decided to turn off the nanny cam. We now skip to 3 days before the due date. Delmy takes another health exam, after which she shares a story about a woman who used to live in the area. This woman had 3 small kids, and was in labor with her 4th. She was on the way to the hospital when her car crashed, causing the death of her unborn daughter. After this, she fell into deep depression, and ended up taking her own life. Before Delmy leaves, Julie asks her what the woman's name is, to which Delmy replies, Melandra Kinsey. Hearing the name made Julie curious, so she took a good look at the bracelet found in the drain, and realizes that it contains the initials MK. To make sure, she even looks at the deeds to the house, and discovers that the previous owners were a married couple whose wife's name was Melandra Kinsey. And so, Julie calls the local newspaper to ask if they still have any archive about a suicide which took place in the late 60s. The next scene shows us the last day before Julie gives birth. Daniel is on his way home, while Julie is alone in the bedroom. After she hears the door crack, she uses the automatic vacuum cleaner, and equips it with a camera to see what's in the nursery. There she finds the little boy's ghost, and asks if the person who wants her baby is Melandra Kinsey. Hearing the name, the boy runs away, and when Julie aims the vacuum cleaner to the side, she sees the boy standing with 2 other boys, right before the camera dies. Up next, she begins hearing heavy footsteps in the bedroom, followed by a pair of hands fiddling with her stomach, so she calls for Delmy's help. Thinking this might mean early labor, Delmy excuses herself to get dressed, once again leaving Julie on her own despite her pleas. Just in time, the news article Julie requested is sent to her email and she opens it. Apparently, before Melandra Kinsey committed suicide, she murdered her 3 existing sons, one of whom looks just like the little boy Julie thought was Andrew this entire time. She's interrupted by Delmy and Daniel, both rushing to the bedroom, saying that they probably must deliver the baby in the house. Julie insists on being taken to the hospital, saying that Melandra Kinsey is already there, but Daniel tries to hold her down. When she fights back, a cupboard suddenly swings open, and a surge of pain hits Julie, while the rest of the furniture rattles, and the lights go out. Up next, they hear a sound coming from the closet, so Daniel goes to check it out. To their surprise, they find a young boy, who tells them to go hide, before crawling up the wall. Realizing that they need to escape the house now, they pick up the wheelchair, but it gets flung across the room, followed by Delmy getting yanked out of the window to her death. Daniel helps Julie head downstairs, but on the way, Julie feels another powerful contraction while the house rattles again. This causes a set of power tools to fall and hitting Daniel in the head, and knocking him out. Now on her own, Julie tries retrieving her phone from another room, but the door shuts before her, and shortly after, her water breaks. She then reaches for a walkie-talkie, and tries a random channel to call for the police. But then...
Help! I'm in labor!
She gets yanked into an unused bathroom, and goes into labor right there and then. Meanwhile, Melandra Kinsey's ghost finally appears in the hall, headed for the bathroom. Julie keeps pushing amid the pain, until she manages to give birth to a healthy baby girl, who she immediately cradles in her arms. But it's not over. Melandra Kinsey's ghost is now standing at the edge of the room, reaching out for the baby's soul. Julie tries to move, and realizes that the floor under her is made of rotted wood. She holds her baby tight, and starts rocking in the bathtub, until it collapses to the first floor, injuring her badly. She is now dying from the impact, but the baby is safe and sound. Just in time, Daniel runs to her, and she asks him to take the baby to safety. As Daniel tries to break the front door down, the woman's ghost appears again, and starts to approach the baby. With the last strength and hope left for her child, Julie the mother rises.
My child! Get out.
Once it's over, Julie tries calling Daniel, but he doesn't hear her. The wife then sees her own dead body lying on the floor, and finally realizes that she has become a ghost too. Up next, the little boy's ghost appears, and guides her to a room, where her stillborn son, Andrew, is waiting. As she holds Andrew in her arms, she feels herself being summoned back to life, because a team of medics is trying to resurrect her. It is now that Delmi's ghost walks up to her, and so, Julie asks her to take care of Andrew. Seeing Delmi walk up the stairway to heaven with the son she's been missing brings tears to her eyes.
Clear.
Long story short, several years have passed. Daniel and Julie now live happily with their little girl and their cat. The ghost figure that always scared the shit out of the wife is gone, and this is where the movie ends.